Somanathan, who's an architect, avid traveler, reader, a great cook, and who loves to have conversations over coffee. So, Rohit, over to you. Can you please introduce yourself and talk about your book?
Thank you, Vinita. Happy to be here. Hello, everyone. My name is Rohit Somanathan. I'm an architect by profession. I was born in Mumbai, raised for most of my life in Tamil Nadu. I did my undergrad in Chennai and then went on to do my master's in architecture in Nottingham, in the UK. I've been practicing as an architect for 5 years, and now I'm looking to change course, and I'm currently doing my MBA at Great Lakes Institute of Management in Chennai. So ever since from the earliest days in my life, I've always had a passion for history and monuments, a love for the ancient stuff. So that sort of always been my guiding light, my guiding passion. So in a way, I think that probably prompted my interest in pursuing architecture, because you can't study architecture without learning about how things happen from the very beginning. So and that passion has also fueled in me a desire to write something that was based out of something in the past. While I was in my UG, around 2011 or 2012, I think, we were first being introduced to 3D modeling softwares. We were first introduced to the concept, and at the time, these various fantasy, high fantasy staples like Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones were in vogue. It was fully in the cultural zeitgeist, if I can say that. So at the time, that prompted me a desire to play around with the software. Initially it started like I was just building a 3D landmass. I was terraforming it, pulling up mountains, carving river valleys, and then I decided to go further with it. Put build up spaces there. Imagine cultures that will live there, the religions that they'll have, the trades that they will do, the type of government systems that they'll have. So I went into this thought experiment with it. So at around 2016, 2017, that's when I realized, a lot of these high fantasy genre staples, they're mostly based out of medieval history, Norse mythology, Egyptian or Greek mythology, some of it even in Chinese and Japanese history. So I felt that something based out of India was not yet there, or at least at the scale that it deserves to be in, because a lot of Indian mythology, Indian ethos, Indian culture, it's a gold mine for pop culture elements. So I felt there was a niche there that I could capitalize, and that passion started as a journey to write my own book. It's ready as a manuscript, and I've been trying to publish it for a while. So while I was doing my MBA here at GLIM, I was made aware of the National Book Writing Fest, and I used that as an opportunity to take one character out of my book, and sort of build an origin story for that character. So over 45 days, I wrote a new manuscript, and I got that published through pre-publish as The Blade of Sahjhila. So that's a short bit about my how my writing journey began.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Rohit. I could read a few pages of your book, and it's flawlessly written and very interesting. I like the part that you how you have used the ethos from our Indian culture to bring out that the philosophical and the spiritual angle to in your book. So tell me. Were you interested as a child also? Were you interested to become an author? How did this whole idea of publishing your insights or your imagination and the thoughts, that the kind of story that you were plotting, was it only 45 days manuscript, or there is a lot of experience when it comes to framing your character, putting the fundamentals of the book? So what is the writing journey all about? Can you give some tips for aspiring authors, that that they can write a flawless, beautiful, flowing content?
Hmm. I'm not sure if I'm there yet at the place where I can advise other people on how to write, but I'd be willing to share my two cents about how my journey went about. So I was always been but the writing bug bit me pretty early in my life. So I've always had that passion. I got into elocution competitions, essay writing competitions, some even short story writing competitions as well. So I've always had a flair for it, a passion for it, if I can say that. So it's all about always having a penchant to try out new words, new sentences. To if you find something new, pick it up and find opportunities in which to use it. So if you say, for example, if you just learned the word exemplary, so in a place where you will say very very good, so you can just use that another word to convey the same meaning but in a more eloquent manner. So that's just about how you can develop a vocabulary and get to a stage where whenever you need to use that word, you'll be able to recall it instantly. It's about collecting new words and using it regularly so that it stays in your subconscious. And as far as the writing itself is concerned, it's all about uh, sensing your environment, seeing what's happening around, trying to imbibe it within you. So the way I did it was that from a very young age, I always carry a journal with me, a short something that can fit into my pocket and a pen. So when I see something interesting, a nice scenery, I just like usually I sketch given my background in architecture, but where I don't have the time to sketch, I'll just quickly write what I saw. I'll capture it into words. I see an interesting conversation that someone is talking while I'm on the commute. I just note down things that I found quirky or funny or an interesting insight. I always felt that some of the most insightful or some of the most evocative ideas will just come from simple conversation that two people are having about their life. So, and then my understanding of the built up spaces that came from architecture. Any settlement, it just doesn't happen like, but few people have to come together. They'll have to decide, you're doing this, you're doing that. They develop an understanding, they develop ways of doing things. So it gave me an appreciation of how a small bunch of huts will turn into a large settlement or a metropolis. So that educated my idea of how I create my spaces, because whenever I'm writing a passage in a book, I just don't like to start it as just two people walking in and straight away having a conversation. Like I'm a big fan of Studio Ghibli films. If you haven't seen, if people haven't seen it, I thoroughly recommend it. It's an absolute visual feast. What they essentially do is that they set the scene vividly. They'll show you what's happening around, and then the main characters walk in and they do whatever it is that they do. So I'd like to do something in my books as well. So just before the two people walk in, they have a conversation. I like to set the scene, how the buildings look like, what are the people around, what are they doing, are there any animals or birds or other critters moving around, what is the climate there, what are the sounds that are audible for people who will be walking by. And once I do all that, the characters walk in mid conversation, and the story flows. So that way the picture is set inside the writer, inside the reader's mind, as to what's going on around them, and that sort of gets them into the book itself, into the scene itself. So I felt that these are some of the things that helped me effectively craft a story, in so far as what my journey has been so far.
Lovely. I mean, I could, imagine the entire plot of the story when the way you describe. Also, when you mentioned that you carry a little book to write your experiences, that reminded me of someone I actually would say that got me into reading and writing was Daisaku Ikeda. He's a Japanese philosopher who has done a lot of work for humanity and still going on doing it. So even he had mentioned in one of his scriptures that how he notes down the general small things in his entire day, and he gets a coat. He has a special coat which he wears, which is full of pockets, so that he
Mm.
can keep putting those little chips to create a good story or a book.
Now we
um,
just have a smartphone, so we only need
yeah,
one pocket
yeah.
now.
So I'm
Yeah.
talking like, say
Mm.
about 20 years back. when I started my, reading
Mm.
journey. So, tell me, you have a very interesting bio. You're a writer. You're an architect. You love to, you have a flair for food also. So how does all this, food, your, profession, your writing ability, how it all, this blend of, things help you in your writing journey? What kind
Mm.
of, inspiration do you get from these different things? And you're a hiker also, I guess.
Yeah, at times. I don't have the fitness
And
for that anymore. That's something I'll have to fix.
how do you
Yeah.
balance these aspects of your life and still, be able to write
Uh,
a book?
Now, firstly, like you'll have to cultivate that love for just putting thoughts into paper, because what I like the insight I got out of motivation is that more than the intensity, the stamina of that motivation matters more, because anyone can have that. Most people will have that motivation to write something, and the intensity of that motivation will definitely be strong, maybe for the first week, maybe some for some people even the first month. At that time they'll be vociferously writing, they'll put lots of thoughts into paper. But then people that anxiety sets in, is what I've written good enough, is it interesting enough, will people get bored? So that anxiety sort of inculcates in them a procrastination. I'll wait writing on this until I have a better version for this, and they delay and delay, and ultimately it stops. So uh, I felt the stamina of that motivation matters. So even if you don't write 10 pages a day for 1 month, if you even write 1 page a day and you can sustain that habit for 300 days, then you have a book.
That's
So,
so inspirational. I mean, what you just said, and it's
mm,
so realistic that we kind of
mm,
feel that it has to be something very amazing for me to, share.
mm.
Rather
And one more thing,
something,
and one more
yeah.
thing, I listen to a lot of master classes from a lot of eminent authors about what their writing journey is. So one master class that really helped me craft my aspirations for writing was a master class held by the great American author Neil Gaiman. I guess he's British, British author Neil Gaiman. So the his thing is that you just finish it. Like, it doesn't matter if some parts of it are not good, or some parts of it leave a lot to be desired. You just finish the book, and when you take it to a publisher, you give something to him as your first draft. But you'll know that multiple edits of that has happened. So it doesn't matter whether that first draft that you send to the publisher is your fifth draft, or your 46th draft, or your 2372nd draft. It doesn't matter, only you will know that number. So the most important thing is, you finish your book, you finish whatever it is you want to say, and then you can always go back and pick on things that are not good, and improve it. But if you don't finish it, then like you won't get that sense of completion. Like, you have to see it through to the end, and then you can always go back and fix things that you think need improvement.
Also, I've heard once him saying that you should write as if you're writing for yourself. Mostly, like
Mm,
when you try and write for others, the writing block happens. So there was a very beautiful interview that he was doing, and he said that write as if you're writing for yourself. Like you dance for yourself, so you are able
mm,
to put your craft, completely there. So that was really inspiring. Tell me, your love for food, travel, your
mm,
work design, all this is, your life. If you were to write another book, after
mm,
your first published book, what topic would you pick up? What kind of a book would you, go for?
mm. Actually, the book I've written for Be Publish itself is a sort of primer for the manuscript that I've not yet published. So that I intend to write it as part of a series. So the book 1 and 2 of what I intend to publish, that is already close to completion, and I want to write it as a 5-part series, where I see the story arcs of all those various characters that I've created come into completion. So once I'm done with my fantasy series, which I hope to get done in the future, I'll also like to explore other parts of history, underserved or under represented parts of history. So some of the topics that really fascinate me are about the world in Central Asia during the time the Mongol invasion was happening. So we hear a lot about what happened in the West,
Mhm.
but we also hear about the Mongols and how they Genghis Khan and all that. But we don't hear enough about what happened in some of the places that they invaded. Just before that happened, how was life there? So I'd like to visit that environment. Put a few fictional characters there and so sort of make them Forrest Gump their way around Central Asia during that. So I have some interesting historical niches that I'd like to explore. And outside of that, I'd also like to write about you know a very simple laid back story of a guy or a girl in his 20s, but exploring it from the idea of a lot of the time the characters that appear in these stories, they're very well established, or they're pretty well to do, they're handsome, they're doing well, they're successful on that. So we only get this perspective, but I'd like to try writing a book where it explores the lives of a lot of flawed individuals who made a few mistakes, who are not happy with their life, but they're trying to get through it. Some books have been set in this setting, but
Right.
I don't think there is enough of that in the modern day Indian setting. So that's something I'd like to try out. So, but primarily, I think in the future, I see myself writing in a lot of historical fantasy fiction. But just this simple life story of a flawed individual, or something in sci-fi, or that's primarily where I see myself going. But my immediate motivation is to the see this
Complete the
five-part
series.
series through. So hopefully the primer that I've written with Bree Publish will turn a few heads in my direction.
I'm sure. I'm sure. And what you have planned to do next is also something would be very close to the lives of normal laymen, because reading itself is a challenge, for which I see that you don't meet many people who share this in hobby. So finding readers and good books is always a challenge. But I'm sure with an author like you would definitely inspire many youth, and you'll definitely deliver many beautiful books. Thank you so much, Rohit, for such a meaningful and insightful conversation with us today. And I wish all the best for you, and keep writing, and stay tuned. And we would love to have you in one more, discussion and podcast. Until then, take care and stay tuned. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you so much. Thank you so much. Bye bye.